So we Anglicans are stately people, but I gotta say, it's Christmas! Isn't it great? I love Christmas. It's so wonderful to see everyone walking in like different shades of red and being like, oh, that person chose the bright one. Not everyone's wearing red. I'm not wearing red. But I appreciate your red. But I know it's still Christmas Eve. But technically, when there are 3 stars in the sky, it's the next day. This is the Jewish way of figuring out what the day is. So it's Christmas. So you can start saying, Merry Christmas! Ho, ho, ho! Though I still feel like saying it kind of quietly, right? Because we've been preparing all this time. We've been getting ready all this time. We've been trying to put out all of our lights and pretend that we're not putting out all our lights because it's still Advent and we're good Anglicans and we don't celebrate Christmas until the 25th, right? So I have to say, Merry Christmas. But part of Christmas is waiting, isn't it? Waiting is important. And not like waiting at the DMV when you forgot a book and you don't have your cell phone on you or it's out of batteries and all you can do is watch other people waiting in line. It's not that kind of waiting. Waiting for Christmas isn't like waiting in traffic or for news, whether it's good or bad. Waiting for Christmas isn't like waiting for a package to arrive in the mail today because you paid for 2 days shipping and it's been 3 days. Where is that package? Waiting for Christmas is different. This kind of waiting doesn't come up in our hearts all that often. We keep pretty busy, with decorating and baking and buying and driving around frantically and doing all the stuff we do in December. But just waiting excitedly for Christmas is different. So my dad always got us really riled up for Christmas. He loves Christmas. He loves buying gifts, and he hates getting gifts because then he doesn't get to watch people open gifts. He has to open them himself. And he still does that. So my dad came up around Thanksgiving with my mom, and they brought these big boxes. And he put them down, and he opened them up, and he said, "These are your Christmas gifts." And I said, "I don't want to see them, Dad. It's not Christmas." And he said, "Don't you want to just take a peek?" And I said, "No, I don't." And he said, "Your sister saw them. And if you have an older sister, you know that nothing gets you more mad than when your older sister saw something that you didn't." Is that true? Yes. I think it's the same case for any sibling, but I'm the youngest. And if Katie saw something and I didn't, I get mad. But I am a priest of the church. And I put on my priest face and I said, "No, Father, I will not see these gifts until the Lord's birthday." And I did wait. But Dad likes teasing us about this. He liked it when we were kids and he loves it now. And he does this because Dad loves Christmas. He loves getting people excited, but still have to wait. That kind of feeling inside of you that you're like just about to get something, but you're not getting it yet. Like when they bring out the birthday cake and you're like, "Stop the song and give me a piece of this cake because it's great," but you got to wait through the whole song to blow out the candles. Dad likes making people squirm in their shoes with excitement because I think Dad knows how important it is to be excited about something you don't yet have, but that you know is awesome. Do you all know this feeling I'm talking about? We just lived through it, right? We're waiting for Christmas and we're like, "Oh, the lights are up. Just have Christmas now." I always want Christmas now. I keep on talking about waiting, but it's not really waiting. It's not that it's almost Christmas feeling all through December. Or it is that it's almost Christmas feeling all through December. Or maybe if Christmas isn't your thing, it's not everybody's thing. It's that feeling you get when you count down the days to your vacation. Or you watch the leaves of summer turn darker and darker and slowly turn to that oh so beautiful yellow or orange or red that is suddenly so bright. Or that breeze that comes at the end of winter that says, it whispers, "Spring is coming. The snow is gone." And of course then the snow's come again. But you know that feeling, that breeze in spring, early spring, that's like, oh, the freshness is here. But it's not here yet. That waiting for that beautiful, wonderful thing. My friend used to get his shorts on whenever he felt that. And he said, I don't care, it's spring. And he'd be walking around in sandals and shorts, and it'd be snowing. It'd be like, get pants on, you're gonna get sick. He said, no, it's spring, I'm done. He didn't like to wait. So we usually call this feeling, this excited bubbling up feeling, we usually call it a sort of childish glee. We assign it to children and forget that we feel it as adults too. It comes upon us almost from nowhere sometimes. I remember this feeling when I was abroad and found, I think I've told this story like a million times in a sermon, so if you're new here, like you get to hear it the first time. But I was in Japan, and when you're abroad, you kind of get these weird feelings for things. I got a weird feeling for Johnny Appleseed once when I was just like, I want someone to tell me the story of Johnny Appleseed. Weird. But I found in a train station a package of peanut butter M&Ms. And I almost exploded. Because peanut M&Ms are the best M&Ms ever. I don't know if you know this. It's true. If you say peanut M&Ms, I'm talking about peanut butter M&Ms. Glorious. I hadn't had those things for like 12 months. And I took the package, and it was orange. Slowly opened it. And there's never enough. But I ate them one at a time. Have you ever been abroad? Did you ever hear that, have that feeling? Where it's just like, just this taste of home. And it's not home. It's just a pack of disgusting chocolates that probably rot your brain. But it's home. It's a part of home. It's a piece of home. And this excitement is really important. Because it's not the excitement that's really key. What's important is what is bubbling up. And that's something that we feel when we think about Christmas or autumn or spring or our loved ones or, oh, please let me have just one more peanut butter M&M. That feeling, that bubbling up inside of our hearts, that is life itself. In these moments, we are alive. And sometimes we need to feel this bubbling excitement to remember this, that we are all alive. Christmas happens in the dead of winter. Most cultures I've come across, I think probably every culture, has some sort of celebration in the middle of the winter or when the winter starts. Early Christians began celebrating the birth of Jesus Christ in the dead of winter, not because they had hard data on when Jesus was born. They didn't. Early Christians loved Easter, and they celebrated Easter. And after a few generations, they're like, we should celebrate his birth too. They had kind of epiphany to do that, but they kind of had to make a guess. And the reason, this is actually pretty cool, but the reason why they chose December 25th is because in their minds, the perfect person died on the same day that he was conceived. The Annunciation is March 25th. Exactly 9 months later is December 25th. So they said, must have been when he was born. For them, this made sense. Because they dealt with perfect numbers and perfect squares and all this kind of stuff. Even if it sounds kind of odd to us, this made sense to them. That's why they chose December 25th. And that's interesting, but it's beside the point. The point isn't why it was chosen. The point is why Christians continue to celebrate Jesus' birth on this day for the next 1,800 years. Sorry, I lost my place. Even though it's written right here. These Christians who were struggling to figure out their faith, struggling to figure out what it meant to live as Christians, sometimes in an empire that was very, very hostile to them. Sometimes when they were on the up and up and everything was cool and hunky-dory. But to figure out how to live the life of Jesus Christ, they chose and continue to follow that Jesus was born in the deadest time of the year, the darkest time of the year, because that was from where their faith sprung. Their hope sprung from the darkness. When they thought everything was awful in the world, and it looked like the world was dying, they said, this is when we will celebrate our life. It makes sense to locate the beginning of all of this about Jesus, the whole kit and caboodle, when the world is as dark and pitch and frozen over solid. Because the light doesn't come in the middle of summer when everything is nice and beautiful. The light comes when we need it most. The night comes when all hope is lost. The light comes when we are in our darkest and most fearful depression. And it's not a story either. It's not just a pretty little myth that we tell each other to make ourselves feel better or to kind of feel a little bit better about the world being so dark. And if you want to sit down and talk about the historicity of the Bible, I would love to talk to you about it, but that is also not the point. What I'm talking about is you. Not people 2,000 years ago, not people somewhere else, but you, sitting here in this church with these people next to you. I'm talking about your heart. And I will say that it is not dead. I was reading an author who was writing about preaching the other day. And he said, there are many people who come into church and their heart has died. And in our world, there are a lot of people with dead hearts. Maybe because of depression, grief, sorrow, loss. There's a lot of reasons. There are many priests, I must say, whose hearts are dead as well. And we need to be reminded in the darkness of our hearts that we're not dead, that we are alive. And that seems simple, right? I mean, of course we're alive. We change. Isn't that the definition of life? But to remind yourself that you're alive, that there is something inside of you that is bright and shining and good, that is something that everyone needs to hear sometimes. And that is something that our world especially needs to hear. That we are not dead, we are not lifeless, that there is good in us, and it wants to be present to those who are in most need. The church is here for one thing, to remind you that you are alive. And yeah, the church is here for a lot of things. It's here to continue the teachings of Jesus Christ. It's here to celebrate the sacraments because the sacraments are the most awesome things in the entire world. It's here to encourage the arts, to encourage music and painting and storytelling and any other kind of art. But it's here most of all to remind you that you are alive and that you have a life. And that what you do with that life is not sit with it and hold it in this beautiful little ball, but that you give it away, that you give that light away, and you give it to those who need it. Who needs that light? I don't know. In the next week, in the next month, in the next year, you will come across someone who will need that light desperately, and who will die if they don't get it. This is something that teachers are often told and often need to be reminded, that we don't know how much we're helping our students when we teach. And I think probably doctors and librarians and police officers and every single other person needs to remember that we encounter some people in our lives who are about to die, and they need light, and they need life, and they need to be remembered that they are alive. So Christmas is a lot about opening gifts. And of course, the best gift is Jesus Christ. Hooray! Everything's about Jesus. But remember that you bear within yourself a life that cannot be extinguished because it's given to you by God. And your job as a Christian and your job as a human being is to give that life away. May we be ready to give what needs to be given, to speak what needs to be spoken, and to let our life become the life of one another. And if that light needs to be delivered to you, may you be given that light. May someone come into your darkness and rescue you so that you may see that Jesus is true, because salvation is possible for all people in all the world. Amen.